Oh, really, Bloomberg? It's going to be like that now? You guys can suck a big, fat, hairy... It's here, boys and girls. The wait is over. The fundamental analysis video has arrived. And by the way, I do not hate Bloomberg TV. It's actually pretty entertaining. I just don't think you really ever need to watch it ever again. And the same goes for news on Forex Twitter or on any kind of websites, really anywhere. And this is crazy to a lot of people because we were all told when we first learned just how important fundamental analysis is. There's technical analysis, there's fundamental analysis, and the two need to work together. Not in Forex, it turns out. In fact, fundamental analysis can be so detrimental to your trading that you're almost better off completely ignoring it altogether. You're better off without it. So let's talk about this because this is going to be a tough sell. I understand that. First off, in this video, we're just going to talk about what fundamental analysis is. It's hard for me to say, but it does encapsulate a few different ideas and a few different resources. We're also going to tell you what it does. None of it is good, but fundamental analysis has this really annoying habit of doing the same 3 or 4 things over and over again, and none of them help you trade. Also, why none of it matters. Again, a lot of you who were looking for this video probably went to YouTube and typed in Forex Fundamental Analysis or something to that effect because you want to learn more about it. And here comes this guy telling you to completely ignore it. So I need to explain to you why none of this matters. I prove my point in every single video I make. I'm going to attempt to do it here too. And then it'd be really nice if we could just avoid 100% of it all the time, but you can't quite do that. So I'm going to tell you what you can actually do about fundamental analysis from this point forward. And it's going to save you a lot of time, a lot of heartache, and it's probably going to make you a lot more pips, so stay tuned. So how is this one random trader from the United States with a YouTube channel going to sit there and change my mind about these gigantic multi-billion-dollar financial organizations? I mean, they come on TV, they all wear really nice suits, they talk all smart. How is this guy going to tell me to ignore people like this? They're experts. They have a lot to say. Well, maybe that's true, and that probably is true, but understand that none of this really applies to us. You have to ask yourself, are you a Forex investor or are you a Forex trader? Because there's a very clear difference. Forex investors have time to just sit back and let somebody else do the work. They can make trades based on pure speculation, based on very, very slow-moving news events. They're not really traders. And I can guarantee that most of you, especially people looking for videos like this, you're traders. You get in there. You're hardcore. You put in the work. You grind. You get dirty. You get in, you make your money, and you get out based on what you have right in front of you. This isn't some slow-moving, months down the road elephant that we're sitting there trying to invest in. The majority of you, and if you're anything like me, you're an actual trader. And if you are, none of this really applies to you. Now, are you unclear which side you're on? Well, I'll ask you this. When you enter a Forex trade, do you sit back and do nothing for 6 or 7 months and see where it goes? No? Well, then you're a trader. Okay, and this video is for you. Now, what do these gigantic financial news companies and pretty much all of Forex Twitter spend all of their time doing with fundamental analysis? Well, it includes things like global market conditions, like what is the state of the European Union right now? What is the state of the United States economy? And they can go on and on for hours and hours talking about nothing but speculation. They'll spend a half hour on some head of some banking organization that nobody's ever heard of and what he said and how that might affect the economy, which when it trickles all the way down to us and what we want to happen with the currency pair we're trading means absolutely nothing. And then when we finally do hear a piece of news that might actually influence something, it's really hard to process. Something big comes out in Japan, for example. Well, how is that going to affect the economy? And then how is that going to affect interest rates? And then how will that affect inflation? And then ultimately, how is that going to affect the price of the yen? It's a lot. It's too much. And there's way too many variables in place for anybody to really decipher how any of this information is going to directly affect the currency pair that we want to trade. Stop wasting any of your time on it. Politics is another thing. Politics will, because the media flips out so much, especially here in the United States, greatly affect the price of a currency pair every once in a while. You just never know when. And so even trying to follow anything politically is a waste of time, because you're never going to be able to anticipate what some of these world leaders are going to say or do. And if we can't anticipate it, then there's no way we can trade it. Again, like everything else, it's nothing more than a guess. At least with technical analysis, we have things in front of us that we do know and that we actually can use. But with fundamentals, it's this big, grandiose, complicated guessing game with all these movable parts that in the end really doesn't amount to anything. Now, in our world, what we in real time do have to contend with are economic indicators and reports. Things like non-farm payrolls, PMI numbers, interest rates, things like that. And then the news reports that come out saying if those numbers have changed or if they haven't. But we have a really great advantage here because we know when they're coming, and more on this later. Now, personally, I feel like telling you that you can no longer worry about any of this and get all that time back and move on with your day should be a pretty easy sell. But I think a lot of you are used to watching different news outlets talk about the economy, talking about Forex, anything. And then you also like to follow a lot of different outlets online. And that might be a tougher sell for people like you. So let's keep going a bit here. Now, the worst offenders, as far as people who give you all this useless fundamental analysis that cannot help you and only divert you from what's really important, are as follows. The news outlets, the ones we talked about earlier, the big ones on TV. And you have Forex Twitter. There are entire channels, and I've done this before. I've told you different ways that you can just be really, not lazy, but really unhelpful and make a lot of money in the Forex world. Just start up a Forex Twitter and just start spouting out news events that already happened. You'll get followers, and maybe down the road you can actually do something with that. But for the most part, this is what you see on Forex Twitter, and we'll actually talk about that in a little bit. But again, one of those things, if you just hit the unfollow button on most of these Twitter feeds that you follow, the better off you're going to be. And then there's actual Forex news websites, which is kind of to a lesser degree now. I'm not sure how often people follow these. People still do. These websites still get a lot of hits. People really want to stay up on the news when it comes to Forex, and I just can't understand why. All right, so let's talk about what they actually do. All right, and let's break this down and tell you why this is pretty ridiculous. For one, we just talked about it. They tell you something that already happened. So, for example, you'll hear somebody on financial news say, gold just got done rebounding off of new October highs. Okay, great. Thanks for that piece of information. But I'm not an investor. I'm an actual trader. I'm on top of that shit. I has a chart, and I check it every day, and I already know that we've already come down off this little high. I don't need somebody else telling me that because I am a trader, and as traders, we are on top of things. And we don't need to be told these things because we have two eyes and we have a chart. And that tells us all we will ever need to know. But thank you, CNBC, and thank you, Forex Twitter, for reminding me of something that happened 2 days ago. How about you give me something I can actually use? Or sometimes you might hear about a news event that already happened, and they love to talk about that. They'll say something like, building permits in the United States came in at 1.24 million. This is slightly below the forecast of 1.27 million. Again, thank you for telling me something that happened hours ago. But like every Forex trader on the planet, I have a news calendar, and I already know that all of that just happened. Again, we're not investors. We're traders. We're on top of this shit. If I was trading the dollar, which I'm not, but if I was, I'd probably already be aware of this. But since I'm not even trading it, most of this information you're going to give me is completely 100% irrelevant to what I'm already doing. Give me something I can actually use, or stop wasting my time. Again, information like this might be just fine for somebody who months and months ago put a big short position on the euro dollar and just going to sit back and see what happens. Those are Forex investors. We are Forex traders. We're on top of things. Telling us things like that is just very old-timey news almost. It happened such a long time ago that we have moved on 5 different ways since that news event came out. Since price did what it did 2 days ago, we don't care. And financial news channels are full of these things. Forex Twitter is full of these things, and we're so much better off without it. And now, if that's not bad enough, another thing that these news outlets like to do is not only do they tell you what happened in the past, they tell you what's coming up. They'll say something like, Aussie employment numbers are due tonight. All right. Again, I have a calendar. I already fucking know that. You don't have to tell me. Especially if I'm trading the Aussie dollar, it is my responsibility to know when really big news events like this might be coming up. So telling me doesn't really do anything. Maybe it would if I'm this super forgetful, irresponsible trader, but if I am one of those, then paying attention to fundamental analysis is the least of my problems. So go back and look at your Forex Twitter right now. I guarantee you the majority of what they're putting out is one of these 2 things. 2 things that really don't apply to a real trader. Now, some of these places will take it a step forward. Financial news almost never does this, but sometimes on Twitter and on certain websites, you will see people take one of these 2 points and then try to predict where price is going to go based on the news that just came out or the news that might be coming up. All right, so this is a little better, but there are still major problems with this because it's still information you can't use because, well, for one, a lot of times what it boils down to what they're saying is price in this case might go up or it might go down. Well, okay, well that's good to know that price won't just flatline and go sideways for 7 days. Price might actually go up or down. That's super helpful, guys. And then when they do make some kind of prediction, they almost always point to price levels. I just did a video on psychological price levels and why those are useless. But a lot of times they'll either point to one of those or a support and resistance line or a Fibonacci level or God knows what. And these predictions are almost always wrong. News events and support and resistance lines and all these different price levels are not the reasons why price goes up and down. Traders, fans of no-nonsense Forex, say it with me. Who is responsible for making price go up and down? You know who it is. It's the big banks. It always has been. People who are brand new to this channel, if you have not seen this video, I'm going to link it below. It is the most important video probably on my entire channel because if you don't understand this part, you're going to have a really hard time understanding anything else going forward. So in a nutshell, and I'm not doing this any justice, you need to go watch the video. But if they go to any currency pair and see that the majority of traders' money is going long, for example, they're going to find any reason they can to take it short because they make money if that happens, and they lose money if that doesn't happen. And the big banks always know where the majority of that money sits. That is the one unique advantage they have over everybody else. Now, when it comes to actual news events and things like that, the way they operate is as such. So a lot of times they're just not going to do anything at all. Sometimes price is just going to continue to be price. Nothing's going to happen. People are going to wonder why, and then all these financial news outlets will come on later and say, well, the news was already priced in, or they're going to make up some other reason why price didn't move. But the real reason is that banks had no reason for it to move, so they just didn't. They sat on their hands and did nothing. And just understand, though, too, before that news event even comes out, the big banks already know where they're going to take price. It's just a matter if traders' money switches from one way to another based on the news event that comes out. All right? Now, if a news event comes out that is so one-sided, let's say that for the euro, really amazing news just came out, and you have no choice at this point but for the euro to get stronger. The banks still control when that happens. So they might lose a little bit of money in this process because the news is just so great in this situation. But in the meantime, they're going to find out where all those orders are, where all those stop losses are, And they're going to knock all those stop losses out so they can collect as much money as they possibly can from spot Forex traders before they take price where it's going to go. It's not like great news just comes out for a particular currency and price immediately starts shooting that way. You see a lot of up and down jagged action first. You see a lot of fake outs. You see sometimes price just going the wrong damn way and you wonder why. This is the banks doing what they're doing. This is the banks doing this right here. Happens every single time. The banks will always get theirs, and these price levels have absolutely nothing to do with it. And the sooner you realize this, the better off you're going to be, because you're going to understand how trying to follow any of this is just a glorious waste of time. And if this slide here is not very clear to you, go watch the Big Banks video, go watch the price levels video. I'll link both of them down below. And in a very short amount of time, all of this is going to become crystal clear to you. Because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And this is not a bad thing at all. This is actually great news, traders, because in the end, technical analysis always wins. If your technical analysis is amazing, and this channel is set out to make yours amazing, but if your technical analysis is really, really on point, you can almost forget about fundamentals altogether, which is great because it is a big, discombobulated, confusing waste of time. It's frustrating to follow, it almost never works, and you can now get all that time back. How great is that? Never ever feel the need to have to stay on top of news events in any capacity. Now, you're still going to have to be aware of the really big news events, but that's really okay for us because we have news calendars that, like the one I just showed you. I'll link that one down below if you like mine. But if you don't have one and you're just starting out, please always have one right in front of you, because that will be the only news that you ever really have to worry about unless there's some major political election coming up or some financial turmoil. And all of these things I'm going to show you how to deal with in another video. I'm going to make a video on how to actually deal with the news, how to actually trade the news. It's going to be more about how to avoid the news, but it deserves its own video. And the best part of it is that so many of these news events that come out, no matter how big they are not going to apply to your actual trading. Because more often than not, if the news event coming out does not apply to any of the currencies you're trading right now, you can just sleep right through it. You can pretty much whittle all of fundamental analysis down into a small handful of news events that you already know are happening and when they're happening, adjust your levels a little bit, and then move on. We have this great luxury as spot Forex traders that people who trade CFDs and bonds and stocks do not have, in a sense to where we can do over 99% of our trading directly from our charts and still have great success with it. The problem is most traders never realize this. They never have anybody telling them that pretty much all of Forex fundamental analysis is a complete waste of time, when I've just done my best to show you that it absolutely is, and you're so much better off not paying attention to any of it and getting all of that time back to do whatever it is that you want to do. So if you like what I'm saying and you agree with what I'm saying, and this is what you've been wanting to hear this whole time, I got news for you guys. I'm the only person out on YouTube saying any of this. So subscribe. You're going to want to, and hit that bell. Don't miss anything. If you want to spend all your time trying to stay on top of news that doesn't matter, I cannot stop you. But if you would rather take all that wasted time and focus it on actually winning, this is the one channel that is going to help you do that more than anywhere else. If you can somehow manage to shift your focus away from all the nonsense that doesn't work and doesn't really help you into a series of videos that actually do, you're going to notice changes right away. Lots of people who follow this channel in a very short amount of time already have. So if that sounds good to you, let's get on board. Let's go get it.